What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. And my name is Daniel. I'm an ex doctor trying to get into tech through software engineering. And to be honest, I have been trying to film this video for almost the entire day as well as the day before, but I just couldn't get it to, how do you say it? I couldn't get across my message well, and I think that's mainly due to the fact that I'm a little bit perfectionist and I kind of overthink a lot of things. And so this is the final take, and I'm going to go off script. I have some few pointers here on my iPad, but mainly it's just to guide me so I don't ramble. But yeah. So some of you may know me or recognize me, and that's because I also have my main channel, which is the one that I've had since 2019, and that channel was mainly documenting, my life as a medical student, and I just couldn't find the courage, I guess, to post on that channel as yet. And so here I am creating a whole new entire channel just to dedicate towards documenting this new journey of mine. To be honest, it's a bit scary because unlike people who quit their jobs, or they usually quit because they have something, that was working for them, either a side hustle or something else that they could rely on. And unfortunately, I don't have any of that. The reason for that was because I actually thought, medicine was what I wanted to do. So, a little backstory of myself. Growing up, I always wanted to do something related to science, right? I always found science such a fascinating topic, and it seemed like you could unlock, the mysteries of the world, or at least that's, what I was thinking back when I was choosing it. And so in high school, I majored, in the science department. And then for university, I took on an associate's in biology and chemistry, right? And I did pretty well. I had good grades, nothing was out of whack. And honestly, I was doing pretty good. And I mean, I'm not I'm not trying to brag or, prove some Asian stereotype, but meat of the matter is I did well. And so after graduating university, I had to choose what I wanted to do after that. And one of the curses, at least, of doing well in every subject, right? Even the side subjects that sometimes doesn't make any sense. You realize you're not really sure what you want to do just because you're doing good in everything, right? You're doing good in every subject. And in turn, you don't really know what you want to do. There is a lot of people who go through university and they might study various topics and subjects and careers, right? The sad thing is a lot of people who graduate don't really end up using their degree or even working in the field that they studied. And that was something that I didn't want to happen to me, right? Being a science major, I thought, okay, the next logical step would be to do medicine, right? Medicine is science. Doctors are well respected. They make a lot of money. They have a stable career, and all of that. And so I said, okay, let's do medicine. And so a few months prior to graduating university, I was doing all sorts of sending applications here to Mexico, to Guatemala, even to Cuba. And I managed to secure a scholarship to go study medicine in Cuba. And at that point, I was ecstatic. I was like, wow, I've been given such an opportunity, and I'm going to seize it and make the most of it. And so that was what I did. So in 2015, I went to Cuba, started my medical journey along with some other peers. And that was 7 years of a roller coaster of a journey. And so from 2015 through to 2022, when I graduated, a whole bunch of things was happening, different presidential swaps, the pandemic, and all of that, and all that it brought with it. And so medical school was very hard, and it was even harder with all those extra stuff on top that I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but just know that it was very different There was a lot of restrictions and just things that no one will be able to comprehend unless they've actually been in that situation. There were countless times where I thought, is this what I really want? Is this journey worth it? And all of that reflection happened during the pandemic, most of it, like in 2020, because that's when travel restrictions were placed and like it was really hard to move around and, a lot of things. But in 2020, I was in fifth year, I believe. And so I only had like 2 years left to finish and get my degree and, return home and become a doctor. And so I said, okay, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it and, it'll be better. And boy, was that wrong. A lot of times they say it gets better, but I think it gets better in a way, but it also gets worse in another way. And so after graduation, I returned back to Belize and I did my 1 year internship. And that was a even crazier roller coaster, honestly. Throughout that 1 year of internship, I started to realize that this was probably not the career for me. I probably should have done a lot more research, but back in that time, I was still young. I didn't really have like doctor friends like that to be able to say, okay, here's what's up, here's how it actually is. And it probably was for me in 2015, but 7 years is quite a long time. And plus the 1 year of internship, that's like 8 years. 8 years is quite a long time. And a lot of things have happened during that time. And a lot of my values, right, that I hold has changed. So one of the realizations that I had when I started to do internship and started to integrate myself into the system is how little doctors actually get to spend time with patients. And that could be because there's actually just way too much patients to handle. That could also mean that we're understaffed. But honestly, we don't really get much time to spend with the patient because there's actually just too much work as well. Things you have to do, things you have to check. And I find that kind of sad because the patient is actually what you are here to care for, right? To make sure they get better. And I remember one time a patient of mine, after a while of like me being there to take care of her and like check up on her, she told me she was surprised. And I asked why. And she was like, you're like one of the first doctors that I've seen that is actually smiling, is actually taking his time. I think a lot of times, due to how hectic it can get in the hospital, like I don't blame anybody for not spending enough time with patients, but really it's crazy how little time we spend with patients. And that was one of the main things because it's really fulfilling being able to make someone feel, safe and like feel less stressed than they already are being in the hospital. And I wasn't getting that. Another reason is I realized how toxic the culture of medicine is, especially in a workplace environment with multiple colleagues, with multiple general physicians, specialists, admin. Like, of course, there are exceptions to the rule, and I'm really grateful to have been able to meet those people, work alongside them. But the majority are super toxic. I believe every workplace has some level of toxicity in them, but I feel like medicine is the worst of them all, right? Competition between interns, spitefulness, favoritism, like just I honestly didn't feel very supported, right? I just felt like, why would you treat me in a way or belittle me just because I'm a fresh doctor, right? Shouldn't we all be working towards, a higher goal, or trying to make sure that, that we learn what we need to learn in order to provide the best possible care? Honestly, I'm gonna leave it at that. right? I did not enjoy the culture while doing my internship. And although I've heard that things are better, after you do the internship and you actually work in like, as a real like licensed doctor, it's not something that I want to be a part of. And there were times where I tried to change it, tried to, make some difference within, but yeah, the rigidity of the system and how it's like a vertical hierarchy and like chain of command, it's hard to make any impact. And lastly, it was the lack of time freedom, lack of location freedom. I think what the pandemic has taught us is like remote work can work, and it can be very fulfilling, and it can be just as effective. Similar to what I said about my values changing, I actually want to be able to work remote, and being a doctor would not be able to give me that. Being a doctor means a lot of sacrifice, which is not a bad thing, right? But you'll have to sacrifice days. You'll miss a lot of like important events, and you might make money as compensation, but to be honest, the amount of hours you work, the fact that you have to be in the hospital, you can't really treat people over the phone like that, or like over a call. Maybe surgeons could, but in general, you're not going to be able to have time freedom nor location freedom with medicine. So now let's go into why I chose software engineering. So because I left medicine, I needed to find something that was also intellectually challenging as well as stimulating. And what I learned about myself for a long time is that I really like building things. I really like creating new solutions. And okay, we can add this extra bit to why I left medicine was I believe medicine is a bit rigid in the way it handles like innovation and technology, and it's for good reason. You don't want to rush out. You don't want to do a rush job on some new treatment and like not really test it fully. I fully understand that. But other things like the way the system works, the way things are done, these are iterative processes that they have merit with it. But one of the things that I learned now is that this might be a hot take, but doctors aren't really at the forefront of new innovation unless they're doing like research, and even that takes a little time. I remember a few months before I graduated, I met this kid, right? He was the son of one of my patients that I was taking care of. The patient introduced me to him because he was interested in studying medicine, right? And I was like, sure, that's great. And so he asked me if I could, give him some tips, show him some stuff, prepare him for what's to come. And I said, sure. And so we did that. We exchanged WhatsApp numbers. We started talking, giving him tips and tricks and whatnot. And then a few months after, I stopped hearing from him. And I was busy myself, so I wasn't really reaching out unless he reached out to me. And so I was like, okay, hey, I remember this guy. It's been a couple months now, and I wonder what he's up to. Did he make it to medical school? Did he get in? How's he doing? And so I messaged him, and he told me that he's no longer doing medicine, or like he no longer chose medicine to begin with. And then I asked him why, and he told me it was because he realized, after all the research, and he probably did like some shadowing and asking questions, he learned that doctors don't seem to be innovating, right? They're usually just following some guidelines that was proposed, or you doing treatments that have been tested and has been the norm for a long time. And of course there's new things popping up, but like for the most part you're not really innovating. And one of the things he wanted to do was be at the forefront of creating new cures for diseases and stuff like that. And so he chose chemical engineering. He chose chemical engineering, which is a pretty cool field in itself. And I think it is more in line with what he wants. But at the time, I just listened and I was like being supportive. But now, when that memory popped back into my head, I actually understood it now, because I myself am someone like that too. I really like building things. I really like making new creations and inventions that solve problems in the world. Like growing up, I used to love taking like cereal boxes and like tape and whatnot and create like phones, like slide up phones. I've somehow managed to make a sliding mechanism that you can imitate like a slide phone. And so like from young I had this inventive mind, but I never really thought of it as anything. I thought it was just a phase. But even up to now, I have that drive for like creating things. And so I believe software engineering would be perfect for that, to satisfy my drive for creation and also impact, create solutions that impact like the world. And usually software engineering, it is a little bit faster to see the results of your work. It's more faster, more tangible. And from what I've seen and what I've heard and asked, work life balance is really good. One of the reasons I actually wanted to study software engineering was like based off of the day in the life videos on YouTube. I know that's not like the best place to find what it is, but there is some truth to those videos. And I like the ability to be able to work from everywhere. I have some personal friends who are in software engineering, and I just feel like it's the right thing for me. And so, in conclusion, do I regret leaving medicine? To be honest, not really. I actually feel very happy. I left medicine probably in the later half of 2023. And don't worry, I have since secured a meantime job. It doesn't pay as much as a doctor, but it helps me get by. And I'll be, in the meantime, working on some software engineering courses. I might make a next video talking about that. And yeah, so if you're interested in my journey, make sure you subscribe, give it a like. If you know me, probably don't share it with your friends, because I'm not ready. I'm not ready for the backlash. But subscribe. There are going to be way more videos coming, and I'm going to be documenting every part of my journey for y'all. And we're going to see where it goes, because I do not have any clue how my life is going to be. But I'm hoping to secure at least a tech job at the end of this year. Yeah, let's see how it goes, okay? Anyways, I'm rambling a little bit too much. See you in the next video, guys. Peace.